Thank you very much, Janet. It's a pleasure to be here. I really enjoy hosting and moderating public forums and debates. Talking with the press is always interesting. I think one of the most exciting quotes I ever saw was in a French language newspaper in Montreal. I had a colleague in Montreal who teaches at a university there tell me how interesting he thought my quote was and how wonderful my French was. But in fact, of course, the reporter had translated from our English interview, so that was quite funny. But we will actually conduct this forum today in English, and each of the candidates will begin with a 90-second statement that tells you a little bit about them and why they're running. And then they will end with a 30-second statement where they can really give you that final pitch for why they deserve your vote on or before Election Day. In between, they will answer a series of questions that have come from voters here in Elkhart, and the time of those responses will vary based on the nature of the question, and we'll rotate the order of first response so that you hear from a different district each time we begin a new question. We will start then with the opening statements, and we will go first to District 1 and Steve Gruber. 90 seconds.
My name is Steve Gruber, and I'm a Republican candidate for District 1 City Council. I'm a native Elkhartan. I was a kid that just thought Elkhart was not cool, not a place I wanted to be. I saw some family friends lose their businesses in the late 70s, early 80s, and van conversion was the way of the future. I did come back in 2008 and was surprised by the talent I found here, and I channeled some of that, developed the Art Walk program, chaired the Jazz Festival in 2009 and 2010. I'm a downtown property developer and investor and landlord, as well as a business owner. I think what concerns me is Elkhart's housing quality. We have 50% of all of our residents are rentals. Many of those are substandard. There's been a lot of grappling and some reactions to the role of code enforcement. I would like to see a plan for land use that the city does. The street department did an excellent, they did a whole inventory of all the streets and the improvements. I'm saying let's do the same thing with every single parcel and let property owners know what's here and now and available to them, whether it's historic credits, green credits, state help. Inova is developing a really amazing program to defer student loan debt. So I think I'd be the new guy. So I'm not going to come in with pistols blazing on city council, but one of the things I really want to work on is a sensible, enforced minimum housing code.
Thank you. We will hear next from District 2 Republican Kraig Grover.
Thank you. My name is Kraig Grover, and I'm running for Elkhart City Precinct number 2. And how's that?
That's good.
I've been a resident here since, I built my first home in '81 in the county. And I've lived in the city currently since '95, I believe. I have been employed for Edinburgh Public Schools for 25 years. I've owned a masonry business with my brother. Numerous things. There's a lot of issues within the city, such as housing, and there's a lot of things that need to be improved in my specific neighborhood, actually. We have speed issues, houses that have burnt, houses that are vacated, numerous things that have been addressed last night and as of today. I'd like to see these improvements, and I would like to be a voice for the citizens of Elkhart and also from the precinct. And I want to appreciate this group of people that are here tonight, and the League of Women Voters and the Democratic Council from
American Democracy
I
Project.
appreciate that. And this lady here has been a great help to me. I'm not a public speaker, I'll be the first to admit that, and as I grow and learn, I will improve. But thank you for your time, and I'm looking forward to represent everybody in District 2 and as well as the City Councilman. Thanks.
Thank you. Our next opening statement will come from Republican Brian Thomas.
Hello, good evening. I see some new faces here this evening. I realized last night as I was going through my personal information, I glossed over a few things. I'm a lifelong resident of Elkhart. Went away for 2 years to Indiana University of Bloomington, came back after 2 years and finished up 2 years over at IUSB. Graduated of Indiana with a marketing degree. I took a series of several jobs after graduation, including several in the RV industry. Then one day I was approached by a well-known prominent businessman who offered me a pretty plump position in an opportunity. And I thought it over, and then finally all I could say was, "Thanks, Dad." So I became owner-operator, manager of Paul Thomas Shoes for 33 years on Main Street, and still own the building down there, so I'm totally invested in the downtown area. Moved on to Strong Avenue in 1971, raised 2 children there. My daughter's a teacher at Memorial, happens to be in the audience today. My son, we're not quite sure what he does, but he does live in Denver, Colorado. Chris's daughter has 2 grandchildren from my daughter Chris and 1 darling great-grandchild. My priority on going on to the council, quite frankly, I don't think the council should necessarily have individual priorities. We're not the ones that necessarily drive the agenda, but we should work together with the agenda that whatever administration is in there works with and try to accomplish the goals together.
Thank you. Thank you. And our time cards are right here. All right. We will hear next from District 4 Democratic candidate Dwight Fish.
Thank you, Elizabeth, and thanks to the sponsors for providing our space. I'm going to get right into it. I have many priorities. I'd like to be reelected to help support the Tolson and get a mayor and a council that's focused on that facility. The public has been denied that. We've got to get Benham Avenue taken care of and repaired, and our infrastructure in the 4th District continues to be looked at and monitored and repaired where necessary. If you look around, we're getting rid of the blight. We're making sure that we've got good quality lots to put those houses on that we all talk about. So when people start investing, there will be places in our community in the 4th District for new housing. We've gotten rid of some old buildings like the Labor Pump, and I'm proud to say that I was the president of the steering committee that started that park. So go down to Indiana Underpass, turn right, and that beautiful park is a nice quality of life asset, and that's what I continue to think about for the 4th District. What can we do to improve the space we live in? My wife and I have invested in the city. I've been here 28 years. We've been married just now 25, and I'm very civically oriented and focused, and I've been the longest living volunteer at the Environmental Center for 28 of the years that I've been here in this city. I'm invested, and I'm going to stay. I'm going to live and work. Thank you.
Thank you. We hear next from Democratic District 4 candidate Jay Little.
Hi, I'm Jay Little, and while I'm not a lifelong resident of Elkhart, I moved here when I was 9 years old. And yesterday I didn't say it because I really didn't want to have you guys sing happy birthday to me, but it was my 53rd birthday. So, no, please. Anyway, I think one of the biggest priorities that I see is Tolson, and there's a lot of good things about Tolson. And it's been a really hot topic issue. Yesterday, moving on to another thing that I think is really important, Tolson does have solar panels And yesterday, Tom Butler, who's running for council at large, and I were on the top of the Roosevelt Center, and I posted some pictures today on Facebook of that. And I think that that is really important. I think that there at the park that Dwight mentioned, we need to be looking at the wind and solar lights and the LED lights to have that kind of stuff for our city and within our city. It's a huge budget saving thing, and I think the biggest thing that we need to be responsible for is looking at fiscally where our city is and then doing things to build infrastructure, to train people so that that infrastructure is supported. And what that does for our city is it brings new jobs in, it brings green jobs in, and it also makes it so that we as a city are different and we differentiate ourselves from Goshen in that way.
Thank you.
And I'm Jim Little.
And now we hear from District 4 Democratic candidate Ron Troyer.
Thank you again for hosting this event. These are always very interesting to even learn the colleagues that work with us. So, lived in Elkhart on Princeton Avenue 42 years, been married 51 years, operated 3 businesses out of my home. After 21 years, we liquidated our businesses and sold them, and I went back to college for 12 years. Graduated from Vincennes University, ended up in an internship in Germany, restructuring bowling centers on Air Force bases. Came back and took some other college courses and got a degree from Goshen College in organizational management. After that, I got involved with RV business, and then I got asked about being on city council. I was on city council for 12 years, had a great passion for the people and the responsibilities I had there. And I'd like to continue that. Again, people have been after me. My top priority deals with me. You know, I want to continue that respect to and for the people that we deal with, day in and day out, and their concerns and my response back to them and follow up with them. It's very important for me to listen to people, and that's my top priority. The other things, issues, we can take care of as they come up, and I think we can do it as a team. Thank you.
Thank you. We move now to District 6, and we start with Republican candidate Pam Kurpgeweit.
Good evening. Thank you for holding this again tonight for everyone. I'm Pam Kurpgeweit, the current District 6 City Council representative. I usually don't talk about my personal life, but since everyone else is, I have 3 children, 2 stepchildren, and about 100 foster children running around the country now as they grew up and went on their own. I'm an engineer and a quality assurance manager. I've created jobs, created departments, worked in the military microcircuits, music industry, and plastic industry. I've also done interstate business relocation. All of these are including budget oversight, all skills that are required by the City Council to work with the mayor, the council, and the administration to bring our town into the future for not only ourselves, but our children and our grandchildren. We are on the beginning edge of turning our town around. I've been honored by the employer, our taxpayer, to continue to work in this community with all the major projects that have begun. I'm currently involved with the parks and the airport and any other issue that comes up in our community. I attend any and all neighborhood meetings, including the 2 that are active in our community. I would be greatly honored to have your vote again, to continue to work with our community, to bring the great things that I know we can do in our town for all of our future generations. Thank you very much, and I hope to have your vote May 7th. Thank you.
Thank you. And now we hear from District 6 Republican Rick Stauffer.
Good evening. My name is Rick Stauffer. I want to thank the ADP for this great picture they put in out there. Thanks. I'm a Republican, and I'm running for the Elkhart City Council, the 6th District. I'd like to continue the fight for greater Elkhart. I'd like to minimize and stop wasteful spending, lower taxes, and attract new businesses. Some of my other priorities are the Tolson Center. The current, I'm optimistic about it, but I think it serves a great measure for the youth and other community members. I think the city should evaluate staffing, funding requests, and learn what the long-term plans are. Another priority of mine is the current council relationship with the mayors has been very contentious. And I think that we're going to have to be more open, more openness, communication, and accountability. We're going to all have to work together. We're going to have to be bipartisan. I think it'll work. I'd like to meet residents to learn about their priorities and to improve the neighborhoods in the city and to work with the other council members. Thank you.
Thank you very much. We'll now hold applause until closing statements, and we'll turn to voter questions. The first question will be 60 seconds, and we will start with District 2. The question is, what do you think is the top priority for voters in your district, and how will you address it? We go first to Kraig Gruber.
What a great question. I'm fortunate enough to be the first speaker. Thanks. What I see as the most important issue within my precinct would probably be, from my perspective, in my neighborhood, is rental property, vacant properties, homes that are burnt. And there's a great fluctuation of transit people in our neighborhood. A lot of rental properties, which is a large issue within the city. And there's primarily, my issues are with the homes in my neighborhood and surrounding the city. And I'd like to think that'd be the best priority for me to start out with as a city councilman, and working with the other city council people, and as well as the mayor, and working together to improve our neighborhoods and city altogether. Thank you.
Thank you. Ryan Thomas.
All right, thank you. Yeah, once again, great question, and I almost have to, or I will agree with Kraig. One of the creeping problems in our district is home rentals, absentee landlords, quality of the properties that the landlords let to be run down. But yet, at the same time, in District 2, and I'm sure in other districts, there are people that have lived there for years and years and years and enjoy a high quality of life and want to continue to enjoy a high quality of life. And so I think the other problem with District 2 is we are the largest geographical district. So our neighborhoods aren't quite as connected as in some other districts. We're a little disjointed in areas. We've actually got 2 pockets of county within District 2, up there just north of Christiana Creek Country Club. So my priority would be to continue serving the people of District 2 so that they can continue to enjoy the quality of life that they've either enjoyed for many, many years or are just starting to enjoy as newcomers to our district.
Thank you. We turn now to District 4 Democrats, starting with Dwight Fish.
Well, the primary concern for the citizens as we talk is public safety and health. But we've had policing problems since this council and this mayor came on board, and the focus has been in the 4th District to bring stability in the minds of people. I'm working with our new police chief who's receptive, who's logical, who's reasoning, and focused on issues that will give comfort to the citizens in the 4th District. I think that's absolutely paramount because we've had too much gun violence in my district, too much gun violence across the city, and the image is suffering. My job is going to be to work with the citizens and make sure they have a voice in the conversation so we can continue to protect this city and specifically the 4th District. But I believe that we're in the right direction with our new current police chief.
Thank you. We hear next from Jay Little.
In comparison to my two colleagues, Mr. Fish and Mr. Troyer, where I live, I get to hear a lot of gunshots at night, and I have a small dog, so my dog gets woken up quite a lot. I'm very concerned about this. I can say that it's been less since they put cameras in at Washington Gardens, and in that area, there's been less gunshots at night, but there's still gunshots. And I think it's really a scary thing when you get woken up and you hear them a block away. And I've had that happen several times. As far as the relationship between the Elkhart Police Department and the community in which I live, I think that we need to have more officers of color, whether they be brown or black skinned, on our police department. And I would question the hiring practices. And I'd like to look at those a little more if I'm elected as councilperson.
Thank you. And now we hear from Ron Troyer.
I agree with the two other candidates in the 4th District. My one concern is that I hear a lot of is we have a lot of children that walk to and from school, all the way to Central High School, to all the other schools in the 4th District. Safety factor, cars, they have to cross the major streets, so safety is a major factor there. The crossing guards really do a great job. We could use more of them. That's their concern that we hear about. Agree with the gun violence. The other thing I hear is they wish they could get quicker answers when they call in. I like to be the liaison that says, I can get you, here's who you contact, and then I follow up on it, and they would like to have a little more prompt response, and I go, we'll work with them. So, but it is a very different district, and it's fun working out in the 4th District. Thank you.
Thank you. And now we'll hear about priorities for people in the 6th District as we hear from the 6th District Republican candidates, starting with Pam Kurpgeweit.
Well, our district is a little bit different. We multitask. As your current District 6 representative, one of our main priorities is to keep taxes as low as possible so people can enjoy their home and remain in their home and not worry about having to sell if taxes go too high. We also are concerned about safety. We have the same issues as other districts do, but they all work together in tandem on Facebook and working together to keep each other aware of what's happening. And they are quite aware that I am involved in our district and working with any and all entities to try to keep our district safe. We also want to continue to improve our parks because that is something free for the community. You can pack a lunch and take your children down. They also want me to continue on in all the volunteer stuff I do in the community through the neighborhood associations, the CAPS organization, homeless ministry, various other organizations that I am involved in as a representative of our district. So we kind of try to multitask on quite a few things. So thank you very much, and I hope to have your vote May 7th.
Thank you. Rick Stauffer.
I think all the districts in Elkhart share some of these issues, some more than others. The 6th district is kind of like two districts. You got one on one side of the river, and you got one on the other side of the river. They're almost as different as night and day. I think one big thing is a lack of code enforcement. I see a lot of homes where there's 3 to 5 families living in one home. It looks like they're running an automobile sales lot. There's cars in the back, there's cars in the front. I think that needs to be addressed. The city is really looks run down, And I don't think that's going to attract many people. You have a lot of things going on, but that's just, we got to do something. And the police can only do so much in the Kraig. You got to have to get residents involved in it. Call, maybe put up cameras. Thank you.
Thank you. And thank you all for doing so well with your time cues. We turn now to District 1, and we will hear from Republican candidate Steve Gruber.
A couple things. My district is also varied. There's some very, very below the poverty line folks, but it also includes St. Joe Manor, so you've got millionaires on the river on East Jackson. So I'm hearing a few different things. Everyone hates the narrowing of Jackson Boulevard, but my thing is that's a 3 to 5 year project. Be patient. Overwhelmingly, people are concerned about the rise in rentals and the lack of compliance. There's nobody's feet are really being held to the fire, and affordability. I'm hearing from families looking for 3 and 4 bedrooms, the scarcity of that. I'm not sure that's the city's to deliver, but we need to be aware of it. I do agree with what Brian said. One person can't come into council blazing and say, we're going to change housing. I will work with the new administration and with whoever's willing to listen, and let's figure something out, because it's something that everybody's thinking about right now.
Thank you very much. I would like to mention that Richard Shively, Republican running for District 1, is unable to be here because he was hospitalized. That's why he wasn't here yesterday or today. I mention that because from the American Democracy Project and League perspective, it's important for you to know when a candidate did in fact agree to participate in a public forum, and then through no circumstance they can prevent, ends up being unable to participate. We see that differently than candidates who opt not to participate in debates and forums. So that's worth mentioning, and if anybody knows Richard, you might want to send a quick get well card. All right, so now we turn to another question. And at the same time, we certainly wanted to still hear from all of these candidates because they all are contested. So we didn't take District 1 out of this forum. So that's a really important part for you to be able to hear from all the candidates who agreed. So let's turn now to the next question. We have a question. A couple of you mentioned parks. We had a question from a voter who wants to know about your plans for improving city parks. Do you have any specific plans? And we will start first with District 4 and Dwight Fish, and you have 60 seconds.
Thank you. Well, parks are absolutely paramount in the triad of quality of life in the city. Hospitals, schools, and parks. People come here and look at how well we maintain our parks, how well they're accessed, and the amenities that are involved within the properties, and how they're essentially connected to the city. The bottom line is we've got to continue to invest in that quality of our life. I spend a lot of time at parks with my dogs, with my wife, and my family to make sure that I have a great experience outside. We can supplement with the latest in updated playground equipment, ADA compliant sidewalks, restrooms, the things that people demand of their taxpayers that this city provides for them when it comes to quality of life in a park. Everybody in this room has been touched by a park at one time or another, active or otherwise, and it's very important that we continue investing in that.
Thank you. Jay Little.
I think one thing that I share Dwight's sentiment. I do have a small dog, and so therefore he walks me, I don't walk him. Anyway, one of the things that I think is really important about our parks is that we have a lot of beauty in our parks. Sometimes, though, I'm disappointed that we don't have more trash cans and encourage recycling within our parks in our city. There is a lot of trash that I do see when I walk my dog, and I'm disappointed sometimes that I see as much, and I think that we need to have better programs of it. One park in particular that I've been in a lot in my life is Studebaker Park and Baker Park across the riverfront. And for a long time, people dumped in there. And I'd like to see something done to prevent dumping in some of our city parks. There's been, and I'm sure that there's other parks around. I think we have 35 or 40 parks, something like that within our city.
Thank you. Ron Troyer.
4th District has some very unique parks. I think one thing I hear from them, and I continue to hear them even as a citizen, a lay citizen, is they want to feel comfortable and safe in them. You know, lighting is their main concern. You know, we get a lot of traffic at night that use the parks, even into the wee hours of the morning. You know, they just don't see the security that we could provide there. So I think if we've got great parks, if we just tweak up and provide a little security, and trash is another issue that Jay mentioned, that there are small things that make a big difference, and I think that will help the quality of all of our parks. Thank you. Thank you.
We turn now to District 6 Republicans, Pam Kurpgeweit and Rick Stauffer, and we start first with Ms. Kurpgeweit.
Yes, I'm the current Parks Liaison. We have a new Park Superintendent. We have a wonderful park staff and a wonderful park board. We are working with the Environmental Center to coordinate and work with volunteers in our community to update and maintain our parks. We are getting ready to put a 5-year plan together. The old one was outdated and had not been updated. We are going to do a 5-year plan, which allows us to go for and ask for and hopefully get state and federal funding. We put in a dog park that is being utilized. Our park department puts on many events. We have park rangers. We have asked for more park rangers, but unfortunately we're not able to get those put into our budget. We also are coordinating with the police department and our current park rangers to maintain our parks and patrol them, especially during the nice weather, because we all want safe parks. We all want clean parks. So we will continue to work for the things that we have in our community that make this a fun place to be. Thank you, and I appreciate your vote on May 7th.
Thank you. Rick Stauffer.
I think our parks need to be more pedestrian friendly. In my seeing the parks, they don't look bad. I know a lot of the parks draw a lot of unscrupulous activities, drugs and different things. It's hard to patrol them. You're asking for more police to patrol and stuff, but that's going to increase taxes. Maybe there should be a time limit on when the parks are open and closed. That could cut down on some of the activity that goes on late at night. More lighting, better restroom facilities, make them more for the handicapped people and the elderly. Thank you.
Thank you. We turn now to District 1 Republican, Steve Gruber.
I think it's amazing the number of parks we have in a city of 53,000. I don't have, many thoughts. There's a brand new head, the superintendent. I want to see what he puts together as far as a team. I know in Raleigh, where I lived, all of the parks were corporately funded. It was a bigger city, but that may be something to do. Let's get service organizations and big corporations like Lippert, Welch Packaging to invest. It doesn't all have to be city money. A lot of cities do that, and it works well to have those partnerships.
Thank you. And now we hear from District 2 Republican candidates Kraig Grover and Brian Thomas, starting with Mr. Grover.
Thank you. I've been blessed to have the well-filled trails behind my home. Great park, well-maintained, a lot of city activities going on back there. My backyard is lit up at Christmas time. It's beautiful. And I also have Willowdale Park in my neighborhood, just up the block. A lot of activity there on the weekends, a lot of marriages, wedding receptions, Hispanic graduations, things like that. A lot of things going on. My neighborhood is positive with the parks. As the well field grows, that the last 5 to 7 acres, I believe, has been incorporated behind my home, which I've been told it's the oldest landfill in the city of Elkhart, or in the county. And there will have to be some remediation to that part because of the previous landowners and the trash issues and stuff. But like I said, I've been blessed to have the parks in my neighborhood, such as the well-filled trails. It brings in a lot of good activity, a lot of fun things, and I'm looking forward to participating a lot more with it. As city councilman, thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Thomas.
All right, I'm going to take a different tact. I love our park system, but I think personally they have become a little dated and worn, and maybe a little faded looking. In District 2, I have 3 parks. One has no amenities at all. One has very few amenities. And then the other 2 have very few amenities, including the Willowdale Park that you were speaking of. Wellfields is a perfect example of what Steve was talking about. That's privately funded, corporately funded, if you will. They've done a wonderful job of it. They're leasing the land from the city. If we could make all of our parks look like the Wellfields, I wouldn't be condemning it at all. We do have a new superintendent that's come in. He needs to learn the ropes. He needs to learn Elkhart. We do have this 5-year plan in front of the council right now. There are some questions as far as funding and scope, but I'm sure as we work together, we'll be able to provide the citizens of Elkhart with the best park system that they can possibly want.
Thank you very much. We will turn first to District 6 for this next question. It says, what are, in your view, are the top 3 uses for the Tolson Center, and how can the council help support the center? And we go first to Ms. Kurpgeweit.
Well, as a city council person, I cannot take any definite stand on what would be the best use of Tolson. That is an ongoing issue that's been being talked and discussed for several years now. We've had several groups supposedly going to come forward with a plan of action, but nothing transpired. There were some major issues with the organization, so therefore we are in the situation we are today. I think it's an ongoing discussion with the entire community. We plan, we develop, and then we see what is the best plan of action for the entire community. It could be, once again, just as we talked about the parks, maybe a private entity comes in and takes over the development and the running of the Tolson Center. But at this point in time, I have no definite answers. I have nothing definite set in stone. I'm open to any and all discussions, and we will have to see what the community as a whole would like to see happen with this. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Rick Stauffer.
I'm optimistic about the Tolson Center. I think it serves a great measure for the youth and other community members. Like I said before, the city should evaluate the staffing, especially the funding request, and learn what the long-term plans are. We've got a new mayoral staff coming in. I don't really know what their plans are. I guess we'll have to wait and see. But we do need to invest in our youth. They're very important, and I think it serves a very important thing. If you look nationwide, kids that have nothing to do, they're involved in crime, all kinds of stuff. And I think the Tolson Center is very important, and it should be one of our top priorities. Thank you.
Thank you very much. We turn now to District 1, Steve Gruber.
I think, I've been looking at this from afar, so I can't speak only just as somebody who's observed it. But to me, the people who were served by Tolson Center were the residents in that South Side neighborhood. And it seems like other executives have been leading the charge in visioning. And I think that the people who most benefited need to help develop a plan. And then that plan could be fleshed out by a blend, nonprofit, social service. I think it really is about use and respect. The Tolsons established those programs as after school, a safe place for kids to be, and they got everything from basketball to etiquette to homework. And I'd like to see those neighborhood serving plans returned, but led by the neighborhood, not by a bunch of executives who think they have a better idea. But that's just me looking from the outside in, so thanks.
Thank you. Kraig, Grover.
The Tolson Center's had a prevalent factor in our community. It's been there for 25-26 years, I believe. It serves the youth of that neighborhood, and initially it was supposed to serve all of Elkhart. I'm relatively new to this issue. Going into the city council, listening to some of the things that are pending, and I believe it has a good function for the neighborhood and the community of Elkhart. But the board and its members need to direct their concerns as a group, and to not expect the city to help come in and oversee issues that are prevalent, supposedly, that are going on, and just work as a group. We have 9 months left as a council and as a mayor. They have to work together. They have to resolve this issue, hopefully in the near future. Thank you.
Thank you. Brian Thomas.
Yes, I agree with Pam. The reopening or reuse of Tolson is not necessarily a council imperative. It has come from the administration. The council would then look at the financial aspects of it. I was one of 4 that voted to keep Tolson open at least through the balance of 2018, basically to try to give the powers that be down there a chance to come up with a plan. As we all know, that didn't quite work out. It's being used on a limited basis right now. It has to come back as a public entity that serves every age, children through seniors, every culture, African American, Hispanic, Asian, white, every sector of the town, not just South and South Central. We need to bring everybody that wants to participate in Tolson, give them the chance to get to Tolson and be part of education, recreational, and cultural activities that could be offered at Tolson. I don't know that we're going to be able to come up with a solution in the remaining 9 months, but we will come up with a solution.
Thank you. Now we turn to District 4, Dwight Fish.
Thank you. Well, the Tulsa Center is once again being a hot potato that nobody wants to deal with. The bottom line is there are people in this room that voted against the funding of Tulsa. And we should all be ashamed of the last couple of years in this city of how that center was misused and mishandled. I believe as a councilman, and always at the end of the conversation, Tulsa is in my center, or in my district, and as a community center, was underutilized and squeezed down to a point where you saw it in the public eye how it was mishandled. Some privileges were misguided, and I believe the public was misled and I believe abused in a way when they did not get their voice listened to. Tulsa should be funded by the city with corporate assistance and help and support, and it's going to get there under my watch.
Thank you. Jay Little.
I think one of the things that's really interesting about Tulsa was started basically back in 1987 or 1988 when the first grants were being written for it and the idea was conceived. I believe that Tulsa, and I live the closest of anybody in the city that's running for office. I live about 3 blocks away from Tulsa, and I worked there part-time a year ago last summer. They have a very large garden there. They've done a lot of things to encourage things in the community. I believe, though, that there were a lot of things that were mishandled, and I believe that that is part of what the problem has been, and I believe it will continue to be ongoing unless people really look at it. The other thing that I want to say about Tulsa is Tulsa should be it should be bigger than just South Central Elkhart. It should be for the entire city, and it should be the community center that welcomes everybody to Elkhart. We're going to have the aquatic center. we should have, Tulsa should occupy similar space.
Thank you. And Ron Schreier.
Tulsa Center is a great story for all of us' lives in the 4th District as well as the city. The future of it, I was talking to several people today, you know, the possibilities, and I said, what do you think? And they go, we've got the programs in the city. If it could just be a satellite of those, and there's a number of them, the new aquatic center, you know, it'd bring all the kids together in various programs. It unite the kids as well as the parents, and I think that's what we need to look at, is how we can bring the people together, you know, to make this feel like it's part of their side of town as well as ours. So there's a lot of good future down there for the kids and the parents as well. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Our next question will be another 60-second question, and we will actually start with District 6, but we will go in reverse order, so we don't always have the same candidate speaking after the person that they are running against in the primary. So we'll start with Rick Stauffer. And the question is, do we need to review existing city ordinances regarding housing, noise, occupancy, trash, junk cars, department oversight, or any other issues? Where do you think we need to review, and is there anything a council can do to make sure codes are enforced?
I think we need to look at all those issues because they're all problems. Like I said before, the number of people living in one home, some of them are single-family residents, and you've got 3 and 4 families living. You got cars all over. The noise is immense. You got people with these boom boxes. There's no enforcement. That's the problem. You don't enforce the law. The laws is on the books there. They've got the laws, but you need enforcement. If you call the police department, a lot of times they say, well, we got other things to do. We can't go out and look at cars sitting in the alleys or the streets, blocking traffic. We don't have the time to do that. We've got bigger fish to fry. But it's an issue that really needs to be, if you want people to come to the community and call it home and live here, you're going to have to clean that up, because it's not just in one district, it's in all the districts, some worse than others. Thank you.
Thank you. Pam Kurpgeweit.
I had the honor of sitting on 2 code committee review boards. A lot of changes were discussed, a lot of things were decided to be changed, but I don't know if they all made it into the code books, because we currently do not have a code book that's available to the public unless you go online, and it's a little difficult to maneuver that website. Many of the things that the community complains about are also dictated by state and federal rules and laws and regulations, even in reference to the cars and the noise, how many people can live in a house. So sometimes we may not like what is happening in our community, but we're dictated by other laws and ordinances. I do believe we should continue to review codes. I do believe we should continue to review any issues that are brought forth to our community, and we should work as a group to try to make our neighborhoods and our entire city as safe and nice and affordable as possible for everyone. But once again, the city council does not dictate all of these. It's a group effort. Thank you.
Thank you. Ron Schreier.
These codes and ordinances, that's city council's responsibility. That's the legislative part of it, you know. A lot of changes go on, like was mentioned, the state mandates certain things, you know. We have a very diverse culture in here, in the city, that is not aware of our regulations. And that's the communication skills that city council that's on walking the beat every day hears and relays on to the legal department to pull up the ordinance. Let's look at this, address it. Also invite the people to come to privilege of the floor and air their concerns of the areas around them. We need to have people voice their concerns as well. So it's a big issue, and we need to handle them one at a time. Thank you.
Jay Little.
I think code enforcement is pretty important, but I also think sometimes that they really get nitpicky about properties. And I'll give an example. Trash can, and if the house doesn't have gutters, then there's no point in enforcing that where the trash can sits, as long as it doesn't sit in front of the house. And I'm aware of a property where the property sits on a corner, and so there's really technically no back or front side of the property. And I see people park cars on lawn, not on old driveway that has been around since we had Model Ts. And I know I've talked with a couple different council people about this, and I think it's a bigger issue. I think the other thing is that code enforcement, and this was brought to the city council. At one point, they were required verbally to write 25 tickets a day, and that's got to stop.
Dwight Fish.
The 47% of rental properties in this property is putting extra burden on the fundamental way we do business, and that is to collect taxes on property from homeowners. We've got to protect that interest. So if you're a homeowner, that's great, and I respect that, because I am, and I don't mind a referendum that's going to add $6 or $7 more to my mortgage. I'm good, because I want to support my schools through that property tax system. But the rental property system is somewhat broken. I know some of you are rental owners in this audience, and you keep your properties up. But we've got a fundamental problem where we flip-flopped the value of owning a home in this city, and it's going to change in the new administration, because we'll have more eyes and a more focus on the quality of life that home ownership brings. Please invest in Elkhart and keep the properties you own and rent up to speed so we can continue our way of life.
Thank you. Brian Thomas.
Yes, most of the ordinances that we deal with are just a mishmash. They're written in bureaucratic lingo. It's hard for the regular citizen to understand, and the city has not done a very good job of informing citizens, including new people that come into town, some of the rules and regulations that they're expected to abide by. We've had policies, the last couple administrations, policies have flip-flopped back and forth. One thing is being worked on to the detriment of another, and then they move on to a different area. And whoever the next mayor is needs to work with the council to set up a committee, which we have asked the last two administrations to do, and then not come to the table, to oversee, to look at all of our ordinances, the huge book that it is, and overhaul it and bring it down to the level where the common citizen can understand it.
Thank you. Kraig Gruber.
A lot of code violations in my neighborhood. I believe the code enforcement, I actually know several code enforcement officers that work in my neighborhood and things. Very appreciative of them. But there is a lack of communication within the neighborhoods with the citizens and the council to update issues and things. But as for, like Brian had said, there needs to be a group of people with the current mayor, new mayor, and new candidates running for city council to sit down and organize an idea how to promote and move on, and be able to restructure our codes and enforce them. And thank you.
Thank you. Steve Gruber.
I definitely think there needs to be a comprehensive land use strategy and an enforced minimum housing code, and also provide property owners all the resources that are available to them. A lot of people don't know. Affordable housing is going to be more and more a problem in Elkhart. And whether or not I'm fortunate enough to be elected, I'm going to work on this issue, because housing is very important to me, period, as a councilman as well.
Thank you very much. We're going to follow this up with a quick 15-second question, which asks, Do you believe that the code book should be put online? Would you rate this a high, medium, or low priority? We start with you, Steve Gruber, District 1.
Yes, hi. Have fun.
District 2,
Yes, I believe it should.
Brian Thomas.
Yes, high, but streamlined.
District 4, Jay Little.
Yeah, and I think it should be streamlined, and we should have some community meetings about it.
Dwight Fish.
Yes, it should be online and it should be as streamlined as possible and very interactive, focused on accessibility and transparency of government. Bottom line.
Ron Troyer.
This is definitely a yes, and it needs to be simplified so people can understand it and not have to worry what's in between the lines.
District 6, Pam Kurpgeweit.
The code book is online currently. It's very hard to maneuver, very hard to check out. I get a lot of calls and questions from my district and people outside my district to research a question and get back to them. But it is very hard to maneuver. It should be made more accessible to the public and possibly even have printed code books available. But that is a big book, let me tell you. Thank you.
Rick Stauffer.
Yes, I believe it should be online, but I think it all should be in Spanish and English both. Thank you.
Thank you. The next question says, I'll combine two questions here. This one says, a whale washed up on a beach last week dead from ingesting 88 pounds of plastic. If smoking has been banned or limited for health's sake, why can't we pass something like that to make a law that larger facilities such as hospitals recycle on a larger scale? Mother Nature is not well. Let a clean act begin in Elkhart. So we have a question and a bit of a commentary here. Should there be some kind of a plastic recycling drive or requirement for large facilities? And combine that with more generally, how can we make Elkhart more environmentally friendly? Which is another question we had come in. We'll give you up to 90 seconds. And we will start first with Kraig Gruber from District 2.
Wow, that's a loaded question. Actually, I believe there is a recycling program established in the city of Elkhart. Whether people abide by it or not, that's another issue. But as for like the hospital and things, I believe they have those in place. It's a question that I wasn't ready to address tonight, obviously, but it's something that we need to look at possibly down the road as candidates and try to work it out to where we can improve our recycling programs in Elkhart. Thank you.
Did you want to comment on any other green initiatives, or are you good with that?
I'm fine with that. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Brian Thomas.
Yes, I was proud to be part of the initiative to actually start a recycling program here at the Lerner Theater. We went from throwing everything away to recycling over 70%, close to 80% of the refuse from every entertainment event here in the theater. And it was a simple manner to do. And we've encouraged all other city departments to do the same thing. Just put recycle boxes in their offices and put the refuse and recycle in different bins. And we've got ourselves an efficient recycling program, especially with our contract with Borden. I would not be in favor of writing into other corporations on our environmental high horse, but I would encourage information and collaborative efforts by any company that would be willing to start up a recycling program. And I got a feeling if we look into it, a lot of them are already doing it as far as being a good corporate citizen.
Dwight Fish, District 4.
I've been involved in recycling programs since I was 17 years old, and I can tell you that if we don't start recycling at nearly 100%, we're going to fill up that eyesore called landfill out there, and we won't have a place to put our garbage. Now, the bottom line is, we've got inefficient government when it comes to recycling and the motivation for businesses and individuals to participate in that program. I sit as the liaison on the Solid Waste Management Board from the council, and in 3 years, I've never been invited to have a meeting with the Solid Waste Board. Now, that is shameful. All they're doing is taking your tax dollars and supporting a place to dump garbage. Now, the city can do a lot. There are things that we can, we can ban plastic bags. Nothing wrong with that idea, but it's got to be on the table. We can force recycling at a higher level, but we got to put it on the table to talk about it, and we can't be scared of that topic. We can't be scared of anything in this city anymore. We've got to do what it takes to make a quality of life for everybody in this room, and that includes recycling out of our park system. That includes recycling at our schools. Recycling is the easiest way to turn garbage into money. It's called efficiency. It's called focused effort. If we're going to be lazy about it, we're going to run out of landfill space, and you're going to have to dump it in your yard, because that's the only place left unless we take it out of the waste stream and do what we're supposed to do with it. We create it. We're responsible for it. We need to get it under management.
Jay Little.
Well, like I said yesterday, Tom Butler and I, who is running for candidate at large, we were on the roof of Historic Roosevelt Center, so I'll start out with the green part of things. I'd really like to see a lot more buildings use solar power and wind. We have a lot of Amish in south of Elkhart that do that, and it could be, and at the Sterling Avenue Park, there are 2 windmills there, and with regard to trash, I think that we have a lot of trash that, I ride my bike and I used to run a lot, and so I see trash all over the place, and I'm appalled at what I see. Like I said also, I've seen some dumping. I think that they've got a better handle on it, but I've seen dumping in some of our city parks, and that concerns me. I think that going forward, having recycling, I know that Tolson didn't have recycling when I worked there. By this year, they have started to recycle. And if anyone knows this, I think the numbers from Heimco basically say that if you follow the river east from Johnson Street and north on Johnson Street, that part of the city recycles, the rest of the city does not. And that's atrocious. That means that only about 17 to 20% of the city actually recycles, and that's really a bad number if you think about it.
Ron Troyer.
This is a big issue for everybody with the throwaway society that we're involved with today. Everything, as soon as you're done with it, get rid of it, Doesn't matter if it's tires, mattresses, plastic bags, milk cartons. We need to educate people where to take the specific things where they can dispose of it properly. You can't just throw tires in your trash cart. You can't, mattresses, I was out today, there's 5 mattresses in the 4th District laying out there. Can't recycle them. We don't want landlords picking them up and reusing them. Whose responsibility is it? So recycling is a big issue, and it comes down to educating people, pick out the points that are a major concern. Can't go down Main Street and see 2 mattresses laying on the street that's been there for a week. We need to address it, clean it up, and find out who's in charge or who's responsible for it. There's laws on books. We need to enforce that as well, and maybe address the ordinance in itself. So bring an update and let people know that we've updated the non-compliance of getting rid of recycled items.
District 6, Pam Kurpgeweit.
Well, there is quite a bit of recycling going on in the community. Mr. Thomas hit it pretty well on the head. Not all, but most homes do recycling to some extent. Many of our businesses do recycling. Yes, it's a throwaway society, as Mr. Troyer said, so it becomes an issue of personal responsibility. And that is going to be a mind change that we have to make as a community. Public discussions, the utility company put a flyer in our utility bill about recycling a while back. They're even coming out with different size recycled trash cans that can be picked up by the trucks instead of the small bins. But we need to look at it as an overall thing, not only for our current standard of living, but for our future generations. And yes, we are a throwaway society. So we need to completely change how we're thinking about things. Once again, though, we don't want to enforce a lot of rules and laws. This is America, where we're supposed to be able to kind of live free and take care of our own household and our own neighborhoods. So I am not for as much big government as some people would like to have. I would rather have open discussions and communicating with our towns and our countries, or I shouldn't say countries, our cities, and then let's work together as a team for everybody. Thank you.
Thank you. Rick Stauffer.
I think most of the city has a recycling program in place. Most of your waste haulers in the community supply bins, dumpsters. There's different locations throughout the city. But as far as you're talking about enforcing this, you don't enforce the rules and the laws that's on the books. How are you going to enforce this? How is this enforceable? That's what you need to look at. Talking about the parks, that's a big dumping grounds for trash. As you drive through the parks, you see the dumpsters, the trash cans. It's not waste that is generated at the park. A lot of it's from homes. And if you expect to, you can't mandate a business recycle. That's overstepping the city's authority, the government's authority. You just can't mandate for businesses to recycle. Most of them do if they're conscious of their surroundings, they will. But there's going to be people that just simply will not. It's easier to throw it along the roads.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And District 1, Steve Gruber.
I've been thinking a lot about it. I think public education is a big part of it. There's cities like Portland, Oregon that dramatically reduced throwaway recyclables. Greenville, South Carolina, but it took a lot of, look how cool this can be. You know, in Greenville they picked up all the brush and a bunch of artists made sculptures and they disintegrated and then they turned them into mulch. And it was a big, high profile, pretty inexpensive way to show people, hey, here's how to take care of your brush. I'd like to see the trash picked up, period, here, before we start talking about more recycling. It looks like a dog's breakfast. If you come in here from Goshen, other than 120, we are just full of trash, north, south, east, west. Let's pick it up, then let's worry about more recycling, and then let's get a really cool public information campaign that says we can be like Portland.
Thank you. The next question will go first to District 4, and it says, how can we reduce the homeless population in Elkhart? Please provide at least 2 specific suggestions. It goes first to Ron Troyer.
Homelessness in Elkhart's a big issue. I've talked to several people. You know, it's not my way of living. Some of them have chose that way of life. I think we need to think about how to provide some protection for them while they're there and provide some shelter for them. But we need to have the proper education of their life could be better instead of, you know, just letting them fend for themselves out there, because there are a lot of homeless that we're not aware of that even live in abandoned houses that are very unsafe. So we need to monitor that and encourage them. You know, I think provide some alternatives. A lot of programs can help that.
Jay Little.
In the 4th district, this is a fairly major issue. We have, like when the Schultz building was still standing, I know that there were some homeless people that were living in there. I know that there have been, because of city council meetings, I know that there were up at the old con building, that the police were being called on a regular basis to the con building to deal with this. There were some fires and some other things like that that were set. I don't know that I have all the answers, and I don't know that I have a lot of answers. I'm very concerned about it, and I see a lot of people that are homeless that they just don't know anything else to do. I know that I've had some discussion with some of the churches in downtown Elkhart about the situation, and it's kind of hard for some people to become non-homeless when they lose all their documents. And so that's one thing that one ministry does, is they help them get all of their documents back. But it's really hard to become non-homeless if you don't have documents.
Thank you. Dwight Fish.
Well, the first thing you don't do is just displace the homeless. You've got to ask the hard question, why are they here? Whether it's mental illness, whether it's drugs, whether it's economic misfortune. And if you can't ask that in the mirror, then you better talk to somebody who knows and understands the situation. And when Mayor Dist kicked those folks out over off of 6th Street, where did they go? They went to the 4th District along the river because that's the only place they could go. And I talked to several of them, and I assisted some of them because they needed help. Our community better be a place to welcome all people. We don't build houses for them, but we sure don't mistreat them and kick them to the curb and throw them in the gutter and call that success. We focus on the issues and the resources available in our community, in our state, and through our federal government to support homelessness, to give them legs up so they can move into the economic areas we all dream about.
Thank you. District 6, Rick Stauffer.
I've talked to a couple of reliable sources, and they've told me that Elkhart is kind of a magnet for the homeless. They come from Goshen, Bristol, Mishawaka, South Bend, and even as far away as Edwardsburg. So if we're attracting all the homeless, we must be doing something right. Otherwise, they wouldn't be here. Maybe we should change our plan a little bit. I think the homeless, they bring larceny, they bring crime. It is hard to deal with them because there's not a lot you can do. But maybe it's time to make Elkhart not such an appealing place for them. You mentioned the encampment in the woods down by Washington Gardens. They were offered jobs. Mayor Dist gave them jobs. Most of them showed up for 2 days, maybe 1 day. Their problem is they don't want to give up their addiction for alcohol and for drugs, because with them they're not allowed into a lot of the centers. Thank you.
Kurpgeweit.
We currently have a homeless coalition that has been started in Elkhart. There's 30 to 40 groups that are working on this. Some of them are with the police department. I am sitting with that group of people to work on this issue. Mr. Stauffer was correct. When the tent encampment was broken down, they were given places to stay. They were offered jobs. Many of them did not stay. Most of them left. I ministered to the homeless in Florida. Some of them we got off the streets. Some of them left their homes and went back to the woods. I buried many because they did not and would not change their addiction lifestyle. It's a major issue for any city. It's an issue that will not be resolved lightly, and there will always be those that refuse to have any help with them. Now, we do have 525 Middlebury Street, where a homeless person can be in transition and have a caseworker. We have organizations around Elkhart that help with the homeless. Guidance Ministries just open to 5 days a week. So Elkhart is working on it, and it is going to be a hard thing to fix, but we are trying to do as much as we can. Thank you.
Thank you. District 1, Steve Gruber.
As a downtown business, I got to know Officer James Ballard from the Elkhart Police Department, and it's really true what Pam says. He is working with over 30 different agencies. The number one problem is mental health. So it's not just getting somebody housing, there are complex social issues. I'm not sure from a council standpoint alone what could be done. But I do think that what's begun with Officer Ballard and others it gives me a lot of hope. Again, for a city our size, we have a lot of resources. They're just being strained at the moment, and I don't have an answer for that.
District 2, Brian Thomas.
Elkhart's had a long history of attracting transients because of our location along the toll road and halfway between Cleveland and Chicago, Grand Rapids, Indianapolis. A lot of them come for just a couple of days, and most of them head for the faith mission. They stay for a few days and then they move on. So that's probably a large percentage of our so-called homeless population. And there's many that refuse to abide by the rules that the faith mission put on them and will camp out under bridges or the plaza or whatever it might be. There's different faces to homelessness. The transient, the person that won't follow the rules is one face. A couple with a couple kids stuck, and the couple is stuck in 2 low-paying jobs that are living out of their car is another face. The student that wanders from house to house because he doesn't have a home, and he lives at his cousin's house for 2 days or his best friend's house for 2 days, is another face of the homeless. I don't think it's the role of the city government and or city council to create facilities to house the homeless or to help the homeless, whatever phase they are. But it is up to us to foster an environment that allows other nonprofits or organizations devoted to homelessness to open up those facilities.
Thank you. Kraig Gruber.
I appreciate Brian's comments. There are a lot of, as well as Pam's, there are a lot of initiative programs out there, church groups, community or other organizations that are trying to correct the issue. It is an ongoing issue. Just yesterday, as I came in here, I passed 3 homeless people pushing a cart. It was interesting. It was pointed out to me tonight by the lady that I came in with. We have a lot of empty buildings that could be utilized possibly for shelters. Whether they're feasible at this point, I don't know. But as a future city councilman, I believe that it's not up to the city council to make those decisions. It's or the government. It's forming groups within the city and working as a team to try to correct these issues. Thank you.
Thank you. The next question is a 30-second question. It says, what do you think constitutes strong leadership in local government? What is your leadership style? And we start with District 6, Pam Kurpgeweit.
Well, I'm an engineer and a quality manager by trade. I have budget oversight, I've created jobs, created departments, done interstate relocation, helped create new positions in any department needed, interstate relocation. So those skills, very skilled, I guess I'm losing my words here, but my skills and strategies as a business person have come in very handy, working with the mayor, the city council, and the administration to further our community. And I will continue in that business role as your District 6 City Council person once you re-elect me. Thank you.
Thank you. Rick Stauffer.
I've owned 2 different businesses. I'm retired now. I've owned Michigan Auto Sales and also Michigan Real Estate Holdings. I think dedication, accessibility, and bipartisan. I think that's a very important thing to lead this city. If you don't have those, I don't know. It seems like an uphill battle. But I am dedicated, I'm accessible, and bipartisan. Thank you.
Thank you. District 1, Steve Gruber.
I think communication is key. Anybody who knows me knows I ask a lot of questions. Most of my adult life I've worked with nonprofits, and that involved a lot of committee work and a lot of concessions. So, and the last thing is research. I'm the type of person that will find out as much as I can and then bring it to the group. rather than being reactive.
District 2, Kraig Grover.
I believe lead by example. Show people how you act in your daily life, and people will take note, I hope. But also lead by communication, and include. I'd like to include with my opportunity to be a city councilor, to be committed, show integrity, and have some diligence to help people come to me and talk to me and help resolve issues. Thank you.
Thank you. District 2, Brian Thomas.
Thank you. I think the most important leadership qualities are to listen to a problem, act to get a result, and communicate back with to the person with the results. While I've been on the council, I've been proud to have many department heads come up to me and ask them to intercede to help solve a problem or to communicate a problem to the rest of the council. I think I'm known on the council as the silent killer. I will wait until everybody else has a say, and then I will bring order out of chaos sometimes. In order to paraphrase my favorite quote from Abraham Lincoln, I very rarely learn anything worthwhile while listening to myself.
District 4, Dwight Fish.
Would you please restate the question?
Communicate.
Yes. How do you define a strong leader for city government, and what is your leadership style?
Style is activity in the community, working with the citizens that require assistance and making sure I know my job on the council, and I do it well, and I work with a lot of good people in the departments, and you focus on the services that we have available through the city. But it's all about communication and making sure you stay on task and on message, making sure the citizens know your compassion and your feeling toward their concerns and getting the work done.
Jay Little.
Well, since I've been a salesperson, there's an old saying when you sell that you have 2 ears and 1 mouth, so that means you should talk a third of the time and listen 2/3 of the time. And I think that that's a very important thing when you think about what people are saying and paying attention. Another thing is digging through crap and finding what's really there and what's underneath everything. And then making a decision and getting people to look at the decision you make and having good explanations for why you've done what you've done. So that's my leadership style.
Ron Troyer.
This is right down my alley. Like I said last night, I learned at an early age to listen. Every step along the way I've listened, done my homework, and followed up. And that's the whole thing, to get results, you know. Follow up, call if you have some questions, listen to their question, ask them for suggestions, be the liaison to contact their proper department, and then follow up and see if they got an answer and say, hey, we can work on this some more. So I think it's a pretty simple responsibility. Listen and follow up.
Thank you very much. This will be a 15-second response. A couple of people wanted us to ask. Is another overpass at Hively, only 1.4 miles from Indiana Avenue and a short distance from the Benham overpasses, a good investment of tax dollars? It sounds like they have an answer in mind here. Let's see what you think, starting in reverse order with Rick Stauffer, District 6.
I think they should have built the Indiana Avenue overpass at Highway, so it pretty much sums up what I've got to say about it. Thank you.
Ms. Kurpgeweit.
There's been a lot of discussion over the years about where we should put overpasses and underpasses. It's kind of been determined that this will be our next one for the growth and the continuation of the expansion of our city. So at this point in time, I believe it is a feasible project to do and another step forward for our community as we grow today and as we try to do things for our next generations.
District 4, Ron Troyer.
I think the people in Elkhart really realize the importance of overpasses or underpasses. Their concern is how many side streets that we use today that we've used the last 100 years are you going to close as soon as that overpass gets in? So that's a concern. I think that's a communication factor of the results of what this overpass or underpass is going to do. You know, let them know ahead of time. When they put the one in at Indiana, I didn't even know they was going to close McDonald Street, and I'm less than a block away. So there's some communication going there.
Thank you. Jay Little.
Well, I was really happy to see the overpass and the underpass, but my question is that was that the best spending of our money that we could have had? I think Hively and Sunnyside are the two ones that have been talked about, and I would like to see one at Sunnyside. It would benefit Sunnyside and that area out there for public safety more than it would do at Hively currently.
Dwight Fish.
15 seconds.
Indeed.
I agree with you.
Well, the bottom line is we need one to provide public safety and to modernize the city, to get past the railroad gash that comes right through the way we do business, the way we conduct our lives. And it's real simple, yes, and when we can look at more funding from federal, state, and local, then we'll do some more underpasses and overpasses. We've got to continue modernizing.
District 2, Brian Thomas.
You know, over the years, every overpass we've ever had has had some controversy, but in the end, they've proven to be a viable means of getting through the city. So yes, we need another location, but I sure would like to see the county step up and create one of their own.
District 2, Kraig Grover.
I'm sure many of you said train tracks, watching trains sit there. It's very annoying. I do would like to see another overpass or underpass available for the city, just for the availability to get to and from where you want to go. But I have had the pleasure, no pleasure, of sitting in train tracks for a period of time.
Thank you. District 1, Steve Gruber.
I agree with Brian. It'd be nice to see some other funding partners. And, you know, is this a nice to have or absolutely have to have? And I'd have to hear that from a lot of people. Not just the occasional person who sits there for 10 minutes because of a train. Is this really worth millions and millions and millions of dollars here again? And I don't know the answer to that.
Thank you very much. Steve, we'll start with you for this next question. 30 seconds to solve the problems of the world. The current council's relationship with the mayor's office.
What?
The current council's relationship with the mayor's office has been contentious. What specific steps will you take to improve this relationship regardless of who is elected mayor?
Well, that's a loaded question. You know, it depends on the style of the next administration, but I think that you can dislike me, but respect my office if I'm the mayor. And if I were mayor, that's what I would expect of council. I mean, I think it's that simple. There was a lot of frustration this year on both sides, but I would hope that anybody who gets elected would be treated with respect by council.
District 2, Kraig Grover.
Once again, I was unfamiliar with this until recently attending meetings. I'm not happy that there's conflict within the city government as city councilman and the mayor, but they need to work together and you have 9 more months. You're here to serve the people, and you must communicate, you must get along, and whoever the new mayor is and whoever are appointed to the new city council, you need to work together as a unit and be proactive.
District 2, Brian Thomas.
Well, I've been right in the middle of it for 3.5 years, so there's a lot more to the story than just the word contentious. And I think any council that would just be in lockstep with the mayor just does a disservice to their voters. I mean, everybody has to have their own personal views, even though we're working toward the same goal. But I would pledge, and I have pledged in the past, to work with any mayor and any administration on any worthwhile goal that they present to the council.
District 4, Dwight Fish.
Well, I've never been a fan of this mayor, and I'm going to be doing one very important thing starting May 7th, and that's voting for Democrats to change our city government. So we're more responsive and we're focused on real issues instead of personalities and agendas. We got a real simple task in front of us. We're the taxpayers. Hire the people that will do the work and make them listen to you, and you do that by voting. We've had a contentious relationship, and I think the problem is on both sides of the aisle.
Thank you. District 4, Jay Little.
I would agree with Dwight. I think that there are certain people in the council that like to hear themselves speak, and more so than others. And that goes on both sides of the political fence. I think that you've got to work with the mayor, and you're the person that's the guardian of taxpayer money, and you need to act accordingly with regard to that. And listen to what your constituency says.
Ron Troyer.
These are two very important departments that we are involved with, administrative and legislative. And we have to work together on this. This point of everybody's point of view needs to be respected, and it goes both ways. And I think that's where I'm at. You gain respect by listening and sharing instead of arguing. The general public picks this up, the contention and the arguing. Got to be nice to people. Come on.
District 6, Pam Kurpgeweit.
Well, I, for one, have had no problem with the current mayor or any of the council members. I firmly believe everyone has their own personality, their own passions, and their own viewpoints. It's by active discussion and active participation that many of the great ideas are brought forth. This is America, where we all can openly talk and discuss issues without fear of repercussions. So I will continue to work in a professional, business-like manner I have always done, no matter who the mayor is, no matter who the new council is, because I will truly appreciate your vote on May 7th to continue serving you.
I think it's easy to blame the mayor. It seems like the mayor is blamed for everything. I think there's enough blame to go around for the mayor and the city council. I think if we're going to improve our city, we're going to have to, with the new mayor and administration, we're going to have to be more open with each other. Communication, we're going to have to communicate, and accountability. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And unfortunately, we won't get to everybody's questions this evening, but we will get to one more, and we'll give you 30 seconds, so it will really have to be your greatest hits here. How can we continue to attract good-paying jobs and economic development here in Elkhart? And so what are your biggest suggestions for doing that? We start with District 2, Kraig Gruber.
Well, excuse me, I'm sorry. I believe we are starting that process with the development within the city and attracting new business and higher wages, hopefully. But it's something that affects all cities, and Elkhart is changing and improving, and so it's. Thank you.
It wasn't long ago we were the epicenter of the economic depression and recession. We pulled ourselves up on our bootstraps. We're doing well now. I do think we've got a glut of jobs that pay well but don't really lead to a quality of life for that particular worker. So, I'm looking for more jobs on a technical side, the medical field, whatever field can be strong. We do have groups working. Every city government in Elkhart County is working toward it. The EDC, every Chamber of Commerce, groups such as the River District, all of those combined will lead to a continued quest for economic development.
Thank you. District 4, Dwight Fish.
Well, it starts with one relationship at a time. It's the one that you are going to have with a visitor to this center, to this city, or when you're on vacation, talking about Elkhart and the physical attributes and the emotional attributes that we have here in this city that I've always heard about, that we always seem to brag about. Share your stories to those business leaders you meet, to the visitors to the Railroad Museum, to the park visitors, to the people you want to impress, because it's up to us to make Elkhart the city we want to live in, and those folks to live in.
Jay Little.
I think one of the biggest things that we have that is yet to be really well developed is our bicycle trails, and linking a 40-mile go-round between, here in the county, between Elkhart, Goshen, Middlebury to Bristol, and then Bristol back to Elkhart. We've got parts of it, and there's been several $100,000 that have been spent and earmarked. I think we need to do a better job of capturing some of that money.
Ron Troyer.
Elkhart's always been a magnet for entrepreneurship. And I think if we would recognize the small entrepreneurs and help them more, I think we could attract more diverse industries. We've got some great, unique industries, even in the 4th District. We'd all be proud to share them to you, but we need to recognize those entrepreneurs that have started up and really make it go.
District 6, Pam Kurpgeweit.
We have quite a few organizations around Elkhart that are always working on business ventures and new businesses coming into the community. We as a city council approve tax abatements to help business come into our community and grow and expand and get higher paying jobs, because we are slowly increasing the hourly wage in order to get a tax abatement. We have diversified, we have programs going on. The River District is a major one, bringing in stuff. We are currently working at redeveloping the Lusher Avenue corridor, which happens to be in District 6. So things are happening in our community. We just need to continue with the push that the current mayor and the current council has done. And with the council that you have, if you re-elect them, our continuation will continue.
Thank you.
I think making the city cleaner, safer. You've already said we have nice parks, housing. They're working on that with some of the new high-rises, the river walk, maybe some of your tax abatements, if they're monitored closely. A lot of people say one thing and businesses say one thing and do something else. So I think they need to be monitored closely and see that they do what the tax abatement tells them to do. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Our final round will be each candidate's opportunity to have 30 seconds to tell you why you should cast your vote for them on election. Oh, my goodness. Okay, please.
The plan is there is no plan. You need a comprehensive economic development plan. I heard first tell of this at the mayor's State of the City, which is great, but it can't just be institutional staff people. It needs to be people who have led industry. Some of these guys have retired. Who is selling the city and why? The Economic Development Corporation has done a wonderful job of getting 13 to 17-hour jobs into the county, but I want to know what we're doing in the city. Where's our economic development plan for this city?
Thank you, Steve. We will turn next to closing statements from the candidates. Quickly, before we do that, if you are in the room here, please complete our little event survey to let us know how you found out about us, and if you'd like to be added to an email list to find out about future events like this, go ahead and leave your email. We also do want to invite you to all come back here on April 8th for the debate
of the Elkhart mayoral candidates. That will be the contested Democratic primary race. And of course, remember to check your registration status or register at your latest address on or before April 8th and to vote on or before May 7th. We will turn now to candidate closing statements, and we'll just continue in the order we were proceeding. And on my moderator sheet here, that actually means that we will begin with District 4 and Dwight Fish, who is running in the Democratic Party primary.
Thank you for your consideration and voting for me. I'm looking forward to representing Elkhart for the next 4 years. I'm energized, I'm focused, and I'm participating in a community that seems to be wanting to move forward, and that's where I want to be. I want to be with you in the next 4 years and the future. I've invested in my city. I've put a lot of money into my property, and my wife and I have put our roots down. Her family and my family lives nearby. I'm staying here for a reason. That's because of Elkhart and all the good things that we've talked about tonight.
Thank you. District 4, Jay Little.
I'm really happy to be living in Elkhart. I have had an opportunity to leave Elkhart, and I've returned twice, both when I was done with college and also when I went through a divorce and came back here to Elkhart. I think one of the biggest things that we need to do going forward is have a lot more economic development in our city, and that's what I want to see, especially in the 4th district. There's not a lot in South Central Elkhart, and there needs to be more economic development.
District 4, Ron Troyer.
I think this challenge that I'm pursuing this time has been by the request of the people. They learn to respect and trust me as their city councilman in the past. I have a passion for the people of Elkhart and their concerns, and I would like to continue that responsibility and that friendship and concern and respect that I've established over the years.
Thank you. We move now to the District 6 Republicans, starting with Pam Kurpgeweit.
I've been greatly honored to serve as District 6 City Council for the last 4 years. It'll be 4 years. I think my engineering and business management background in developing jobs, creating jobs, having businesses relocate to the community I was in is very well serving to our community and to our district and our entire community to grow and expand and make our community a safe, affordable, and fun place to be. I want your vote on May 7. I appreciate it. I will humbly serve you another term. Thank you very much.
Thank you. District 6, Rick Stauffer.
I would like to see that the elderly people of Elkhart are represented. We talk a lot about the homeless and this and that, but I don't see a lot about the homeless or the elderly people. I want to make sure that they get what's due of them, because they're really the backbone of the community. They've worked hard, they've supported the city of Elkhart. Also, I'd like to see the code enforced. I don't think it's that complex. I think it's just a choice not to enforce it. I'm dedicated, accessible, I'm bipartisan, I'm willing to work with any mayor or city council. Thank you.
Thank you. District 1, Steve Gruber.
In the last 10 years, I've worked very hard to increase the quality of life in Elkhart through artistic things, through helping Wellfield develop. That community spirit will be with me whether I'm elected or not. I would love it if you did, if you're in District 1, to vote for me on May 7th. But you have my commitment that I will be involved in helping this city become better, regardless of whether or not I do get elected.
Thank you. And Steve will be on your Republican primary ballot. Also on that ballot will be the District 2 candidates you would hear from next, starting with Kraig Grover.
I would like to be a voice for my constituents and also the residents of Elkhart. I have a strong background of being in a community, organizing through my labor studies program that I graduated with a bachelor's degree. I believe in commitment, integrity, and diligence, and that's what I'll bring to the city as a councilor.
Thank you. District 2, Brian Thomas.
Thank you. I am Brian Thomas. I'm a Republican candidate for District 2 City Council. I am the experienced candidate. I've been at this a long time. I know what the position entails. I know how to work my way with constituents through the morass of city government. This community has given my family a lot, and serving on the city council is one small way of me being able to pay back. But in saying that, being on the city council is not a hobby. It's a job. Sometimes it's a part-time job, sometimes it's a full-time job, but it's a job that I want to continue with. Thank you.
And let's have a hand for all of our candidates. We are hosting with the American Democracy Project a number of forums and debates in South Bend, which is contested. In Mishawaka, they don't have contested primaries, so it's wonderful here to see all of these folks wanting to serve you, and thanks to those who came out to listen today. I know there were a number of questions about housing, so perhaps as you enjoy your coffee and cookies, you could ask the candidates their position on that. But thank you for coming out. The recording of this will be available for those who weren't able to be here tomorrow, so we'll post that up and make that available to you. And thanks again, one more round of applause for the candidates.